I am back taking a look at mini PCs, and this one is interesting. It's from Geekom, and it's called the IT15. It has the Intel Core Ultra 9. It's the 285H, and this has 16 cores and 16 threads, and it does go up to 5.4 gigahertz, the turbo, with this mini PC. The most interesting part is it does have the Intel Arc graphics, and this is the 140T. So I'll be taking a look at a course at gaming performance, how it handles editing videos will be covered in this video. I'll quickly show you some of the internals here and upgradability. Now, Geekom, they did send this out to me to cover to give you this review here, and my configuration has 32 gigabytes. So it's 2 SODIMM sticks of DDR5 at 5600 megatransfers and a 2 terabyte SSD. It does come configured. Already installed there is a Wi-Fi 7 card too from Intel. So the spec looks good. And as you can see, a really small, nice, compact size.
Proper mini PC size, not like some of these small form factor, larger PCs I have been covering lately. Under this is where we're going to find the power supply cables and everything else. All right, so we have our AC power supply. That's right here. In a plastic wrap. We have a user guide, support card, HDMI cable, and the power supply. Now, this is rather small, which is good. I like mini PCs with small power supplies, and now a lot of them are using GaN tech. They can really get those sizes down. And let's have a look at what it's rated to. So 120 watts. Finally, a VESA mounting bracket and some screws to mount this on the back of a monitor. So this does remind me a lot of an Intel NUC, those ones, the same kind of build to it, which is very good. So in this side here, we have SD card reader, full size. There is this grill here for some ventilation. The other side, the same Kensington lock slot. And we have 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2s, so 10 gigabits per second. This one supports power delivery power out there, 3.5 millimeter with headphone jack power with the status LED behind that. And then we have our barrel connector in there to power it with that 120 watt power supply. 2 USB 4 type Cs, so they support 8K video out and power delivery with them, the 40 gigabits per second, 10 gigabits per second, USB 3.2 Gen 2, and a USB 2. So this will be good for your mouse and keyboard or wireless receiver or whatever. 2.5 gigabit LAN there, and HDMI 2.0, so 4K 60 hertz out of those. Unfortunately, not HDMI 2.1. I'm not too sure why that is. And the underside. So we do have the mounting points here, 2 holes for that VESA mounting bracket. You can see we've got 4 holes here with little rubber gaskets over them. And now that would be for a 2.5 inch drive, but unfortunately it'll fit, but there is actually no connection inside. So gain access to the internals, you need to loosen off these 4 screws. It's very simple, and then just pull this right off. It does not have any ribbon cables connected. Now on the underside, there is an alloy heatsink there that's going to be in contact with a thermal pad to cool down that SSD to stop it from throttling, which is good. Our 2 DDR5 RAM slots right there, so you can upgrade the memory. I've got 32 gigabytes here. I could put in 64 or 96. And the Wi-Fi card is just under this SSD right here. So that is a 22 by 80 size. Here we have room for a 2260. Unfortunately, not another full-size SSD. That would have been nice, but you can see that the LAN port right there is in the way, so it just wouldn't be possible. They're working with a very small amount of space. And again, I mean, the quality layout of that is good. It just does remind me of one of the Intel mini PCs. The wireless antenna is part of the plastic lid on the top. I kept that little protective sleeve over the top of this to stop it from scratching because it's quite a glossy plastic, and when you're having it face down on a table, of course, it could get scratched. So that's why I kept that on. I'll remove that now anyway. And here we have the exit vent for our cooling. Now the fans inside there for maintenance, you would have to remove the motherboard, take that right out, and then you would be able to clean out those fans. Maybe you do that every couple of years. It really depends on the kind of environment it is going to be in. So good build quality. I love how compact and small this is. Now the BIOS here, you gain access to this by hitting delete, and you see that we don't really get a lot in here. Under CPU configuration, you can control some of the core counts here, so you can lower the efficiency cores Perhaps you wanted to try and boost up the power that would be available to the ARC graphics. You could disable all the efficient cores maybe if you wanted to try and experiment with that. So it gives us tiny bit of flexibility there. However, when you go in and look about power management here, we don't actually have power limits access. So there's not a lot in there. The useful one here would be the power on after power failure. If you're going to run this as a server, you want to, of course, enable power on there. And that really is it. We've got secure boot settings. Nothing else, no advanced settings that I do like to see. The IT15 does come with Windows 11 Pro, and there are some updates, of course, to run with this. I did update all of the Intel drivers. The important one is the ARC graphics. They have some bug fixes and even some big improvements in the performance, upping that average frame rate from some of the recent driver upgrades. They've been pushing really hard Intel on this front, which is good. And you'll see that Cinebench, we get a decent score with a single core of 182 points and multi of 839. Now, I was expecting this to be a little bit higher. I was hoping for around about 900 points. And it seems there is a bit of thermal throttling that does happen. And I'll show you later with the thermals. But I can tell you now that they do get up there when you do push it hard. And it does result in some thermal throttling there, unfortunately. Looking in the device manager, you'll see that we have our NPU that's called, of course, branded as Intel's AI Boost. We have a Wi-Fi 7 card, which is the BE200. Glad they went with this. It's great for future proofing. Backwards compatible, of course, with Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, Wi-Fi 5. And we have the ARC graphics, the 140T that I talked about in the intro. And our chip has 16 cores, 16 threads, the Core Ultra 9 285H. It's quite a good chip, as we can see from the scores here that you do get. So single core score with Geekbench. This is Geekbench 6, and it's over 3,000 points. That is impressive for such a small little unit. Very compact, multi-core score there of over 15,000. Again, impressive. That is good performance there that we are seeing. And other benchmarks, testing integrated graphics, I did, of course, run. So we have Night Raid. So this is a DirectX 12 test recommended for integrated graphics. And I was expecting a bit higher. I was hoping that we could get over 30,000, at least 32,000 or so points. A little bit under what I have seen for similar ARC graphics. And I'm talking about Lunar Lake, which is basically the same architecture there, and around similar kind of performance. I was hoping for a bit better, but still, it's a good result for integrated graphics. Time Spy, we have close to 4,000 points, but not quite. I was expecting over 4,000 again, and I think it's the throttling coming into play. There's a bit of that happening, especially when we push both CPU and GPU side of things. Graphics score of 3,463. I've seen with previous and similar kind of units that we should be able to get around 3,800 here. So just falling behind a little bit. But everything in Windows is blazing fast, really, really quick. Video playback of a demanding file here. So my typical test, this is the Jellyfish file, 140 megas per second, 4K, HEVC, 10-bit. And we'll see that this does play smoothly. Okay, it doesn't play the audio, but that doesn't matter. But you see the video very, very smooth. 4K video editing with Adobe Premiere Pro, the latest version. This is 2025, and it runs really well. So editing 4K video is possible with this spec. My preview is only a quarter, but I think that it's fine considering it's only a small window here. I can resize that. There's no need to set that to the full resolution. So when I do hit play here, it's not dropping any frames, and it is optimized really well for the ARC graphics. And the ARC graphics has Intel QuickSync, which is definitely going to help the performance. Now the export time should be excellent because we are, of course, using Intel's QuickSync with this. Now I'm using the YouTube 4K preset, 1 minute of footage like I always do. And I'll hit here, start and export. There's about a second delay, but look at it just absolutely tear through this. For 4K exporting, that is incredibly quick. And I don't imagine it's going to be that long at all for the 1 minute of footage. And you can see the ARC graphics is doing a lot of that work. CPU barely anything. And it's now starting to finish up. So as soon as that disappears, all of it, there we go. You can say around about 21 seconds for 1 minute of footage to encode that using the Adobe YouTube 4K preset. In-game benchmark, this is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I have it set to 1080p, and I'm not using FSR or anything like that. Resolution scale is at 100%, and the graphics preset, quite demanding. I have this set to high, but it's just to see what it can do. Now we can see here we got 28 average frames per second. Now with the exact same test with my MSI Claw 7, this is the AI Plus model, I get 38 frames per second. Big difference. That's Lunar Lake, but it does have the onboard memory, which is clocked way higher. I believe it is 8400 mega transfers. This is only 56 mega transfers, 5600. This title here is Forza Horizon 5, and I have it set to 1080p, and I'm not using any upscaling or anything like that. I do have the frame rate unlocked, and we'll see what it can do. This is a game that's really well optimized, even for integrated graphics. So in the race here, we're getting around 50 frames per second. This is good. Dropping down to about 48. It is very playable. Few little frame dips, but pretty steady here. Like I said, the game is very well optimized for integrated graphics, and overall runs really good on some low-end systems here. So this is to be expected kind of performance we're seeing here. I think around 50 frames per second, 54 at the moment. It is definitely playable. Oh, and I'm driving terribly here. In the Devil's Den, and you see that indoors here, the performance 45 frames per second, but creeping up to 54 is not bad. But what I have seen is the temperatures at the moment, not too bad, in the 70s. Seen them creep right up to about 100. Thermal throttling does trigger, and you'll see that frame rate start to drop off a little bit there. So around 45 frames per second at 1080p integrated graphics with quite a few, well, in fact, a lot of details here. I think the medium preset still looks great. If you're happy to game at this, then it's not too bad. Now, if you want 60 frames per second, I would recommend dropping that resolution down. So you drop it down to, say, HD, so 720p, and then you'll be able to achieve 60 frames per second. But I did want to test 1080p gaming at least here. And I think even with the FSR enabled, this game is still very, very good and really playable. Thermals on the unit, because of its size and this very powerful chip, even though it's only set to a maximum power limit to 64 watts, we did end up hitting 105 degrees Celsius. That, of course, did trigger thermal throttling, and it was only 1 degree away from the T-junction max there. And that was when I was benchmarking Cinebench, pushing it really hard. Some of the gaming benchmarks, like that Time Spy, was the one. So that's when it will get a little hot. And what about the fan noise? I'll give you a sample now what it sounds like under full load. You do hear the fan. And if you intended to run Linux on the IT15, well, good news, it's going to run. I have wireless all working, even though the Wi-Fi 7 card I thought might be a bit problematic. No, open source drivers sorted that out with the Linux Manjaro. Bluetooth is working there. Volume adjustment, it all does seem to be fine, so that is great.
So if you're after something that is a true mini PC size, so very compact, easy just to throw this into a bag and perhaps take it into the office, plug it in with the HDMI, and then run it from your office computer screen there and have your mouse and keyboard and whatnot set up, then it's good for that. As I showed you can edit 4K video. The general computing performance, which I haven't shown in this video because it's pretty obvious, is excellent. Everything is really fast, loads up quick. There's no lags. You can multitask quite well on this system too. What I have encountered is that the thermals, when you decide to really push it hard or do some gaming, you will see it bounce around the higher kind of 90s. That does cause thermal throttling. And in general, the average temperatures were good. It was just when I was pushing it hard for that. And you can kind of see why, because it is so small and it's got a lot of power and it needs to keep that cool there. So that is the downside to this unit here. There's no Oculink, which I would have liked to have seen. I know that's more like a niche connection to have. Not a lot of people do use external GPUs, especially with Oculink, but would have the two USB 4 ports on there at least, which is good to have if you are going to run an eGPU. Linux did run fine on it. The fan noise from the sample I gave you, it's okay. You will hear the fan when you do push it hard. The good news is that when it's idle, you're not really doing anything demanding, it will drop down there. So thank you so much for watching my review of the Geekom IT15 with the Arrow Lake, the Core Ultra 9 285H.